Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Hopping on here. So we'll wait a couple minutes and welcome Monday morning. Coming back, I hope all of you had a restful Sunday. And I was quite internalized, quite retreating yesterday. So we will continue as we have been all last week. Good morning, namaste Jack. Good morning, Pamela. Good morning to those hopping on. And so, we're going to continue each day coming together at the 7 a.m. time for Ayurvedic Dinacharya. So I'm meeting you in my bathrobe in the bathroom, but really as an inspiration that you also come in this way. So that this is really intended to be practical as much as possible. We talked about the first couple days last week. We talked about the consciousness of Dinacharya, of really this waking up to each day as a blessing. And then now we're moving towards a recognition of the various rituals, the various practices that are done in a daily routine to really allow us to open wide, to ingest and connect to the 5 elements fluidly. So the 5 elements live here in their fullness. Hello, good morning, seeing so many hopping on, good morning. And in many ways, as I was mentioning last week, each one of these practices, each one of these rituals can truly be that. They can be, as we call them in Sanskrit or in the Vedic tradition, they can be like a puja in and of themselves, a ritual, a ceremony. That puja really is intended to anchor the awareness in one way or another. So I'm going to share with you each one of these, and you may have heard of them before for their physical benefits. Even maybe you've heard their energetic benefits, but you've probably especially heard their physical benefits. Happy Monday, good morning. And we're going to take it a bit further so we can discover what the energetic benefits are of them, and how they seed us and connect us to the elements, and how we can really connect to each one of these as a puja, as a ritual, as really truly an asana in many ways, a posturing of connecting more fluidly to life and to recognizing really our oneness with all. So I've tried to set you up as best as I can in my bathroom, my tiny bathroom. And even the way in which we treat our bathroom, especially if this is where many of our morning rituals are happening, is something that I would welcome each one of you to consider. How is your bathroom set up? Does it invite you? Just as I often share about the kitchen, also for cooking, for eating, the dining space, that the way in which we create that area is like a recognition as to whether or not we're creating almost an altar of awareness. So similarly in the bathroom, it can be really a gift to set up the bathroom in a way that really invites you home, as though it is a place where you have your yoga sadhana. It's a place where you have your Ayurveda sadhana, your Ayurvedic Dinacharya. And so even though I have a tiny bathroom, I have it set up in a way that's really inviting. If I'm going to spend half an hour or 45 minutes every day in the morning here, I want it to be created in a way that really, for me, brings beauty and invitation. So I would welcome each one of you to think about that yourself as well. This that you see behind me is a beautiful painting, actually. I wonder if I can show it to all of you. This is made on palm leaves. So as you can see, it folds. These are palm leaves. A beautiful artist from northern India. This has been in his family for hundreds of years, actually, this art. And it's carved. So it's carved into the leaves, and then he uses a dye to paint over. I'm not quite sure if you can see, if everyone can see the small ways in which it's actually carved into the leaves. Really neat the way these are leaves. And then these are various herbs, trees especially of the Indus Valley and of the Ayurvedic tradition. And when I saw his work, for me, this is very, very inspiring to have, for example, in the bathroom to remember and to have there. So I'm just showing you that as sort of an invitation to set up your bathroom in a way that really elucidates an invitation. That elucidates, like, I want to go there and have this time of ritual. And when we call it self-ritual, self with a capital S, a ritual that's really going to bring me into awareness in this very life of my own freedom, of my own peace, of swasta, of healthfulness on every level, which really means my recognition of completeness, wholeness. So I also have some plants in my bathroom, an aloe vera plant. I tried for some time here in Canada to grow a tulsi plant as well in my space, not necessarily in the bathroom. But then I brought some dried tulsi into the space as well. I have a diffuser in the bathroom, so in the diffuser I can invite also various plants to be diffused in that space, whether I'm in the shower or just in the area as well. So you want to think about how you want to have it set up, the colors and the things that really, the lighting, the things that really allow it to be a space of invitation, of ritual, and so you feel good. So you feel good coming in here, really, and you feel good like it is a place and a home of healing for you. So today's first, I would say, of the actual practices, some more techniques, because we've been talking about the consciousness, we talked about what time to wake up, we talked about the prayer or the sankalpa that's often started with, we talked about touching the earth before we move from the bed, and now as we make that movement from the bed towards the bathroom, what is the first invitation, the first ritual? And so according to Dinacharya, the first one that we do before anything else is tongue scraping. So this is a tongue scraper. Of course, you can scrape the tongue with other things. So if you don't have access to, this is a copper tongue scraper, just so you can see, this isn't very sharp. So although it has a thin edge, it's not going to scrape too much. And we sell these at Rasa Ayurveda, but there are also online, you can also find stainless steel versions, you can find plastic versions. There are, of course, toothbrushes that on the back of the toothbrush have this kind of rubber, although I don't necessarily suggest those. Some still gets ingested. So traditionally, people would even, they could even use a fingernail, or people would use, for example, another thing like a spoon or a copper flat item as well, like a knife, but of course not sharp. And so this just makes it really ergonomical and easy to use, to actually have your tongue scraper. Copper is wonderful, and especially yesterday someone wrote me and said, Tiffany, have you seen this article about copper and corona? And she couldn't find the article again, and I said, well, I sure hope that it's supporting it, because if you go onto the Rasa Ayurveda Instagram, you'll see that we created a little slideshow document that I would really invite you to share with people, that has sort of 7 different ways that we can really take care of our immunity, and we can boost our immunity during this time. Of course, we are not on any level saying that this is curative for corona, but it's definitely very strong in its prevention towards flus and towards such sicknesses. So go on there. And one of the things I was suggesting was ingesting from a copper vessel. Well, similarly, and we'll talk about that later, ingesting from a copper vessel. Similarly, using a copper tongue scraper as the first thing is a very powerful metal, because copper is highly antimicrobial, it's highly antiseptic, it's antiparasitic as well. So it really starts to cleanse those things from the mouth down. It also even alkalizes the system. So for those of you who aren't aware, in a more alkaline digestive tract, various things, bacteria, viruses, are not really able to fester as much. So when we start to alkalize our system, which can be through copper, but other means as well, and we'll talk about that when we move to another day and we move to another one of the rituals. This is very powerful again for cleansing and warding off various illnesses that might be trying to enter. So the copper tongue scraper, or a tongue scraper in general, what are we doing with it? Obviously we are tongue cleaning, or we're tongue scraping. I'm seeing someone, a dear friend in the south of India, was offering that a small bendable stem of neem tree can also be used. Absolutely. And traditionally for brushing the teeth, actually, the world over, there have been different plants that have been used. Like, for example, a neem branch, slightly peeled, so it has that sort of furred movement of the branch, so it can actually be used. Or for example, licorice twigs. There are various medicinal branches that have been used to chew on and to brush the teeth traditionally. But it could also be used, yes, to scrape the tongue. So the tongue scraper is really about starting here, obviously in the mouth and on the tongue. And if you remember from last week, and if you didn't see it, go on back onto YouTube or onto my Facebook page, and you'll see the Ayurvedic Dinacharya from Saturday, in which I mentioned how each one of these sense organs connects to the various bhutas, connects to the various elements, and that when we cleanse and purify and nourish one of these senses, in many ways we're cleansing and purifying and nourishing our relationship with that element. We're allowing that element, that universal element, to flow more freely into our being. So the mouth relates to apas, to water. This is the water element. And I just want to remind you that when water is harmonious, when it's flowing freely in our being, it affects us on every level, what we would call every kosha, so every layer, meaning the physical layer is affected, the energetic layer is affected, emotionally, mentally, and ultimately we can say even the layer of bliss, the layer of our recognition of oneness is affected by this element. So what does that look like? Physically, if water is flowing, it means, for example, that the plasma, the lymph in our system, is flowing more fluidly. Think of all the ways in which the various systems need water. It brings moisture, of course, to the body. It brings lubrication. It brings a certain mobility in the body. So if we didn't have water, for example, in the digestive tract, nothing would be able to, firstly, be watery enough that it could move with smoothness, but also some of that movement, although there's another element that's responsible for movement, but it allows that lubrication. Water also allows, in its moistening, it's a demulcent. So it brings moisture into the various areas. Imagine if the digestive tract didn't have some moisture. Imagine if the lungs didn't have some moisture. What would be happening? So this water element is of course needed. Imagine if the brain didn't have some fat and some moisture, right? So apas is needed in the entire physicality. Imagine if the eyes or the nose or the mouth didn't have water. Nothing would be able to be lubricated and carried and stay moist, right? Everything would dry out and degenerate. So moisture, apas, is really necessary for so much of our physiological processes. Then energetically, water brings a certain energy of mobility. So as a prana, it allows for mobility and flow. So we can think of, do we have the energy of flow in our lives? In that way, it's also the energy of procreation. So we can say, absolutely, it's the energy that allows for sexuality and procreation of other human beings. But it also allows for manifested creation. Let's say it in that way. The things that we are able to do each and every day are really the mobility of the water, the flow of the water to reproduce and to create. It has this moldable, movable capacity. And so as a prana, as an energy, when water is more free in our system, it allows for that procreation. It allows for manifestation. There's so many other things that I could say, but I'm just giving you a little bit of an understanding as we do each one of these rituals, what we're truly inviting. If we don't have a harmonious relationship with water, we might notice physiologically dryness, so a lot of dryness in the system. We might notice rigidity, confinement. Pranically, we might also notice that same thing, rigidity, like energetically we stay a little bit stuck. There isn't that kind of mobility. We might notice a lack of creativity in our lives. We might also notice a lack of the sexual energy, which, to be very honest, the sexual energy is the energy that really allows us to make love to all of life, to have this creative impulse to come into a flowing relationship with all of life. I'm not just talking about sexual intercourse, but instead the libido, the appetite for all of life. It comes a lot from this water energy, not only, but it comes from there. So we can think in these more subtle ways. This also touches emotionally, mentally on some of the qualities that are there, of course. As I'm saying it energetically, it also shares with us mentally what it looks like to have more water. Means that as a consciousness, we're more flowing, we're more imaginative, we're more creative. There's playfulness also that comes with the water energy because it has this capacity to dance. But if this water energy isn't so harmonious, what we can find is, like I was saying, the opposite of that, the lack of kind of voluptuousness or flow in our lives. Or if there is a lot of water energy, but it's still not so harmonious in our system, we can actually be so flowing that we're boundaryless. And that could be in various areas of our life, like socially, sexually. We could also notice that we're overly watered, so there's a lot of water retention in the system. So the system is holding a lot of water, and that water could also translate as a lot of adipose tissue or a lot of water that starts to ooze from the various orifices. So it can go either way. So when we start doing some of these practices, what I want you to think about is how we're harmonizing our relationship to those various elements. So tongue scraping, you might have thought, God, it's just 30 seconds of scraping my tongue, Tiffany. Why are you telling me so much about it? But really, I want each one of you to be able to really understand the intention in the Vedas and from the rishis, from the great masters and from these great original doctors of why they suggested these things. So we're connecting to the element of water, and we're allowing this ingestion of the element of water to be more free when we start to cleanse and open the whole oral cavity with tongue scraping, but also with brushing and cleaning the teeth and with oil pulling. And we're going to look at brushing the teeth and oil pulling tomorrow. So the other thing that's really important for all of us to note is the physical down and dirty of what's happening when we do this. So when we scrape the tongue every morning, while we sleep, what's happening is the digestive eliminatory system is trying to basically release the old. And one way that we release the old is through, of course, the eliminatory tract. So, of course, each morning, and we'll talk about that as well, it's hopeful that we will go to the bathroom, that we'll eliminate, that we'll evacuate in the morning. But the other way is up and out through the upper tract also. Actually, this whole tract from the mouth to the anus has a name. It's called Parisha Vaha Shrota. It's the channel of waste in many ways. So in that way, from the mouth to the anus, there is this clearing, cleansing, and much of our lives, happiness, contentment is determined upon how clear and free this channel is, right from the mouth to the anus. Would we not agree? If we haven't gone to the toilet, if things are bunged up here, or if we're not feeling much appetite, or we don't feel that we can really have appetite for food, whatever's going on from here to here really determines so much of our happiness, our healthfulness. So when we start to cleanse our tongue, what we're actually doing is we're cleansing out the old. We're cleansing out what we call in Ayurveda, amma. Amma is the digestive, or let's not call it digestive, but amma is toxicity, waste that's held in the body, and it can be held in the body or deposited in the body and also in the mind. And so we do various of these practices, these Dinacharya practices, which are really can be called kriyas, according to also the yoga tradition, which means purifications, so that we can cleanse out amma. Because if there's lodged amma, it's really blocking the flow of energy and blocking the flow of us having optimum movement in these various channels. And so a lot of gunk, lack of a better term, amma, tends to deposit on our tongues. So I would welcome you, if you're in your bathroom, to take a look at your tongue, to look to the mirror and just see what's happening on your tongue. This is a great feedback to do daily, to check out your tongue before you scrape, to see what's happening on the tongue. So much is determined on the tongue, and we actually do tongue diagnosis in Ayurveda. We look at the organ itself, so how it's shaped. We look also at any cracks or crevices or scallops that may be on the tongue. They can all show us the history of what's been going on in someone's system, and especially in someone's digestive tract. So you can also see changes as you change your diet, your lifestyle. As you start to do more Dinacharya, as you start to do more of these daily routines, you're going to notice that the tongue will change. But we also check to see what the deposits are on the tongue. What's the state of the amma? Is the amma thick? Is there a lot of amma? Is it throughout the whole tongue? Is the amma a little bit thinner? Is there no amma? Is the amma white or green or gray or brown? All of these things can show us so much about the state of our health. And so checking out your tongue, doing daily tongue diagnosis, is actually a very, very important kind of self-recognizing practice. You can say, okay, yesterday, I had nachos and wings at at 11 o'clock at night, no wonder my tongue has this thick ama. Or yesterday I had a really wonderful day of eating more clean, eating more sattvic, and look at the effects that are happening on my tongue. So it can also sort of promote and orient us to our most sattvic lifestyle as well. So many other things that could be said, but how do we do tongue scraping? So we wake up, we do the things that we do in the bed, and we come directly before we talk, or I've already done this morning, before we talk, or before we drink water, or drink anything, coffee, etc. You know, so many of us take stimulants in the morning because we feel this ama, we feel this waste that's kind of held and bogging us down. But if you start doing these kriyas, if you start doing these cleansing practices, you're going to notice that that's so refreshing. That, and some of you are laughing already, that maybe coffee isn't needed. This is my plug for some of us getting off the addiction of caffeine. Even at Rasa, I've formulated actually a herbal coffee replacement, which still has the robustness, the fullness of what you might love from coffee that you can add, you know, your non-dairy or your dairy creamer to really still have that ritual, but it's got wonderful herbs in it that also help to cleanse the system and don't create this caffeine boost. So, scraping the tongue then. We're going to take the tongue and bring it out over our sink. So you can't see, but I have my sink here. Bringing the tongue out, pointing it out, and then take the tongue scraper to the back of the tongue. So you're going to take it to the back of the tongue and gently begin to scrape. So make sure, and usually my pitta friends, pitta individuals out there who learn tongue scraping, they're like, this is disgusting. I can't believe I've had this on my tongue all of my life and I haven't been doing this. You know, in India, everybody does this like brushing the teeth. This is just like a natural thing, tongue scraper and toothbrush. Everybody knows that it's a daily part of the ritual. I don't know how in the Western world we kind of lost this or don't do this. So you're going to notice once you start doing it, once you see your tongue and the stuff that comes off of it, you're never going to want to stop doing this. So you're going to take it and scrape down. But my pitta individuals get really excited about, this is disgusting, and I really want to scrape it off. Don't scrape too hard. There should be no pain or discomfort, okay, everyone? So gentle scraping. And then as you scrape, you might turn the water on. Of course, I don't promote keeping the water on the entire time, but scraping and rinsing, and usually it takes about 5-6 times before all you see on it is just saliva. There's a clear difference between that film and saliva. So once there's just saliva, you're finished. So you're going to wash the tongue scraper off. You can dry it a little bit with a towel and then put it back in its place to hold. The wonderful thing about copper is that it's self-cleaning, so you don't have to worry about it rusting, etc. If for some reason there is a mixture in it of aluminum or something, then it might rust, but otherwise you just give it a nice wash and dry, and then you place it for the evening or for the next morning. You are going to notice a whole host of difference when you do this. The oral health of this, I have so many dental hygienists and dentists who are now promoting these. We have a lot of dental clinics who contact us about the education around them and also about purchasing them, because they notice that not only gingivitis, but also all of the bacteria that then travels to the whole oral cavity is often held on the tongue. So if you're brushing your teeth thinking that that's really, and flossing, that's the best oral practice that you can have, we're going to up it a little bit more with tongue scraping and also with oil pulling tomorrow. So not just for that, but what it's also doing is as it cleanses the ama, it's waking up and stimulating a harmonious digestive system. So you're also going to notice that the digestive process, Jatar Agni, the digestive fire, is going to be improved just by doing tongue scraping, as well as elimination. When you cleanse here, you stimulate the whole pathway, the whole channel. So many people who have challenge going to the toilet right away in the morning, evacuating, they scrape their tongue and they notice, oh my goodness, Tiffany, I start to evacuate in the morning. Not at the same time, but of course you're in the bathroom and there's this feeling of being compelled. It wakes up, empties the old, and welcomes the new day. So lots and lots. Someone's just offering that Beth is saying that her dentist is saying she has the cleanest tongue he's ever seen, and she's been doing this for quite some years since she the teacher training with myself. So beautiful, so beautiful to hear that some of you really love this practice. So this is our gift of tongue scraping, and I hope you will all practice it as of tomorrow. If you don't have a tongue scraper at home, and if you're in isolation or quarantine right now, grab a spoon. Okay, you can always do this with a spoon. In the same way, just gently scraping along the area. So here's to tongue scraping to each and every one of you. Blessings this morning. I hope you enjoyed our time of understanding this practice a little bit deeper, and we will meet in a few minutes for meditation together. Okay, namaste everyone.